Okay, we're live. Welcome everybody. My name is Ross Burnett, Lloyd Grimsley. We're the co-IT coordinators here for the district. We've tried to accommodate everyone's needs in regards to audio-visual for this meeting. We do have two platforms, one here in this room, and then we will move later down to the gym if needed. The board will make that determination. Basically, what we have are several means of communications for the public. One is chat. We will turn, excuse me please, I cannot talk with that on. We will turn chat on during the public speaking means only. Okay? So everyone will have the opportunity to provide feedback as they do wish. We have email. Lori, that email address is?
Public comment at altamontschools.org.
Public comment at altamontschools.org gives everyone on the stream or whoever does not have access to the stream a means to directly contact us. Lori's the moderator for that, and she will communicate that via text or email, or potentially if we have to read to the board. We will have a microphone in the gym for those who are wishing to have comments, and it will be trolleyed around by different district employees. We just ask your patience and hope everybody's respectful and realize we're all on the same team. If you have any questions, I'll answer them now. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to our board and they will run the show.
Thank you. All right, we're just right before 3 o'clock, so we'll take just another moment here. Welcome everybody. It is 3 o'clock. I'm Terry Wolf, Vice President of the Altamont School Board, and I welcome you here this afternoon. I will call this meeting to order now at 3 o'clock. Okay. Wolf. Here. No. Here.
Here.
Coleman, yes. Wow. Yes. Okay. Here. Yes. All present. Very good. First item of business is a change in officers. It's a resignation by the board president. And Alan, I think you have a note over there.
Please accept my resignation from the presidency of the Altamont Unit 10 Board of Education. It has been a great honor to be the first woman to hold that office in our district. These past 4 years as president have been a journey on which I will always look fondly in service. So we can thank you.
We certainly want to thank Mrs. Coons for her service to the board. Right. We have a motion to accept the resignation.
So moved.
And second. So we have on the floor the motion to accept and second the resignation. Any discussion? If not, Mr. Secretary, call the roll, please.
Wolf.
Yes.
Melville. Yes. Coons.
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Lyle.
Yes.
Altamont. Yes. Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Very good. And once again, Mrs. Coons, thank you very much for your service and dedication to the board.
Thank you.
All right, per policy manual, policy 2-110, in the absence of the president, the vice president steps forward and assumes those duties, which is why I'm here at the end of the table. I would entertain a motion to make that happen.
I'll make that motion to the floor.
There's a motion on the floor. Second. If there's no discussion, we'll proceed to a vote. Wolf. Yes.
Melville. Yes. Coons.
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Lyle.
Yes.
Altamont.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much for that, and I will do my best to fulfill the duties of the office. And ask that everybody keep in mind it's been a heck of a few days here. We're all in the same lifeboat together. So everybody that's on this board, great people. We've all stepped forward in the community to look out for the interests of the kids, look out for the interests of the district. We've got a lot of business to transact today, but I think we will have a great meeting. I look forward to working All right, under new business, the first item is the acceptance of the resignation of Dr. David Martin. Is there a maker of the motion to formally accept his resignation?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Are you ready for the question? Was there any discussion? No. Mr. Secretary, call the roll.
Wolf.
Yes.
Elder. Yes.
Coons?
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Lau?
Yes.
Belkamp? Yes.
Yes.
Seven zero.
Very good. Next item of business is the annual renewal. And for those of you in the audience, this would typically be our work weekend where there's a lot of little annual business things to take care of, and that's what you're going to be seeing first. So the first item of business is the annual renewal of our certified public accountant, Glassman Shepherd.
It's the same as in years past. I'm not aware of any changes. It did go up from 12,300 to a top of 12,400.
Okay. Any questions? Is there no further motion?
I'll let you know.
Okay. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Speaks. And just a question, since I'm talking to them, ask, can you guys hear me okay back there? Okay, thank you. All right. If there's no discussion, we will call the roll, please.
Wolf.
Yes.
Melville. Yes. Coons?
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Lau?
Yes.
Belkamp? Yes. Schmidt?
Yes.
7-0.
All right, item 5C is then the annual approval of the intergovernmental agreement for regional safe schools.
Jerry, could you talk just briefly about the Safe Schools program in Effingham County? No. Okay. I'm not real familiar with it because I've been in Coles County for the last 13 years. So.
Jerry, that's our contract with TriStar.
Oh, okay, yeah. We have a system set up for alternative school placement for students who are either struggling academically, struggling behavior-wise, or just would benefit from a different setting. Also to support those students who have been faced an expulsion. Okay. So the first is the TriStar Academy for junior high school. It's called Aspire at the high school level. I think we have 3 high school students currently at Aspire. I'm not sure how many junior high students there are there. Okay, but it's actually serving those students well. Last year, those of you that were graduation will remember that one of our students crossed the stage and someone who was probably a stranger to all of you stepped up to give her diploma. That was the principal of Aspire. That girl was not going to succeed here. She was very successful there. She's having a great life now. The other is TLC. TLC is more specifically for behavioral disorders arising out of special education needs. So the first thing that a student needs to have to be placed at TLC would be an IEP. And then there's a process that we have to go through to document that the behavior is causing an interference with their learning, and we send them there. So those are the 2 SAFE programs that we have. I'm not sure that it's part of the Safe School program, but we also have Pathways, which is an opportunity for a student to get their GED if they drop out of high school. But the thing that most people aren't aware of, and it's not just an open door for kids, but those kids that are really struggling, we do the best we can to get them within 8 hours of their diploma. If we can get them there, then when they go to Pathways, they will get a diploma rather than a GED, which means we can count that towards our graduation rate.
Sorry to hit you with that.
Oh, that's okay. That's not a problem.
And I think you covered both items C and D here, I think, in one swoop. So,
Okay.
Very good.
It's good for you.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Once you knew what rail path we were on, right?
Mr. Wolf,
We could.
you need to turn up your volumes a little bit, okay, please?
Okay.
Thank
Very
you.
good. All right, seeing that we have discussed both 5C and 5D together, would someone consider putting out a motion to approve both of those together?
I'll second.
Ms. Belkamp, Ms. Spence? Any discussion?
I might just add, I don't think anything's changed from years past with this. Everything is the same as far as I know.
It's a good program.
Are you ready, Mr. Secretary?
Wolf.
Yes.
Mello.
Yes.
Pease.
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Shoemaker.
Yes.
All right, motion carried 7-0 on that. Thank you very much. Next item is number 6, the IASB Superintendent Search Update. We have Mr. Tim Buss here with us today from IASB. In the public portion, he'll give us a brief introduction, and then we'll go into closed session so we can talk about individual candidates for a little bit of time here, and then come back to continue with some other business.
Thank you. It's good to be here. My name is Tim Buss. I'm with the Illinois Association of School Boards, and I'm here to assist the board in finding Altamont school superintendent.
Very good. So seeing that we'll need to talk about people individually, may I have a motion to go into closed session? For the purposes of considering information regarding appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, or legal counsel for the district, including hearing testimony on complaint lodged against the employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. As a student, Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes. Second.
Wolf.
Yes.
Mello.
Yes.
Pease.
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. Shoemaker.
Yes.
7-0 at 3:09.
Very good. Thank you all, Mr. Wilford, if you would stay, Tim, if you would stay.
We're going to go to Leland.
Mr. Kerr, stay. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are back into open session, and there is no action as a result of closed session. So to require, Mr. Secretary?
That is correct.
All right, oftentimes, actually, at every of the regular board meetings, we have a section for clause to recognize good happenings within the school district. We just don't have anything submitted yet since we did that just 2 weeks ago. And so we will move on to number 9, correspondence. Mr. Secretary.
Okay.
Number the-
See if I can speak loud enough. Thank you for your kindness and sympathy at a time when it was deeply appreciated from Mercer family, and thank you for the generous gift. You're welcome. Good one.
Very nice of them. All right, next up, Mr. Mark Holland. We would like to talk about the bus fleet and information you have for us about ages and
Yes,
in the future.
I don't know if everybody was sent one of these, that kind of talked about the buses and showed our age of our buses and our fleet and how many miles we had on them and stuff. You know, I want to thank the board even for last year. We were able to get a bus last year, and we did, upgrade a, driver's ed van and another administrative van. I really appreciate that. We just need to kind of keep moving forward in that respect and keep our fleet viable, and this year I would like to try to maybe replace the school truck that's 21 years old. We've had it well since I started even 20-some years ago, and we use it to pull our band trailer around to different parades, and it's nice to have a nice looking vehicle that does get pulled through the parade and everything, and dependable. So we're wanting to maybe move forward on a school truck there. And then, like I said, on our sheet, kind of my wish list, so to speak, as to what we would like to do to continue moving forward, having dependable vehicles when we, say go to Champaign and different places. And as we're looking at this list, I know if we glance or look it over, we have a total of 14 buses. Obviously, the oldest one's 18 years old. We have 8 of those 14 that are over 11 years old. Out of those 14 buses, 10 of them are over 100,000 miles. So, I mean, and there's several of them that are closer to 140,000 miles too. So, I do my best to try to keep things moving, keep things going, but, there is a limit to things too. So we need to keep moving forward and, you know, try to purchase if we can. It would be nice to have one a year to be on, so we would have if we would have 5 vehicles on depreciation, that would help in the scheme of paying, you know, if we get 20% of that bus paid back to us over a 5-year period, technically, you know, so to speak, if we have 5 years on depreciation all the time, that should be enough to pay for that bus for next year. So that's kind of my goal there, and try to get back into that type of routine if we could, and you know, as long as the state's paying like they should, that should be really our goal, probably. So, and vans, as far as that goes, I think we made a big upgrade last year, you know, doing better. We just need to keep moving forward. Does anybody have any questions about the fleet, or?
On the pickup truck, is it mostly cosmetic issues, or is there
Well,
mechanical problems?
It's, you know, I know we had, just had a fuel pump put in it. Of course, that's the first time I remember having a fuel pump put in it. It's had a transmission put in it, a new rear end at one time already. And the rear end is making noise again. So, I mean, I don't know how much, you know, we should really spend on a $2,000 truck, you know, when, you know, I know when we put the transmission in, that was $3,500 alone. If we can go out on state bid and possibly purchase a new pickup truck, which we do get a reduced rate compared to an individual buying it. You know, we get state bid, and a lot of times we can buy those trucks for, you know, you or I probably pay $10,000 more than what somebody would off of the state bid type scenario. Of course, depending on what options and stuff you want to do.
Mark, what's a state bid on a truck run?
Well, I haven't had a chance to actually look it up and see whether Ford's available, a Dodge, or Chevy offers anything, and it'd kind of be what type of options we would want to, whether you want 2-wheel drive, or, you know, if that's, I mean, that's what we have now. I would tend to think it could be around $35,000 pretty easily, you know, for a truck to replace it in a 2-wheel drive and a regular cab without all the bells and whistles. You know.
Why do you treat the truck different than the vans that we purchased and bought? We looked at the state bids versus local, and our decision last time was the money wasn't substantial enough savings to send our business out of town.
Yeah.
Does anybody have an opposition to us asking locally again if they can meet our needs? Because then we're feeding our community.
I haven't had the chance to ask, you know, A&H if they could get like a lease return pickup truck, and, you know, possibly in the scenario that we might need. And I know they were very gracious the last time in wholesaling the vans that we did get rid of for us. I mean, that was a nice gesture on their part.
I really think for us to just assume that the state is the way to go.
I think we need to look at both options.
I'd like to add something. In my other life, I audited car lots for First Mid Bank, and I can tell you right now the cost of used vehicles is off the charts. Just something to think about as you move forward with that. So I don't know if anybody else has experienced that.
Then maybe now is not the time to buy a new truck.
Yeah. What else is the main use besides using it for the van?
I mean, I know they use it for
town here?
maintenance, hauling different things too. Of course, they use a van in some instances, but that's the only thing that we really have that we can utilize to pull the van trailer, that's got that hookup, electrical hookup to the van trailer that they put all their van instruments in. The truck actually has, 174,000 miles on it. I mean, you know, as long as it's well kept, that's not that big an issue, but,
Can you hook up one of those, like that little white van? Can you put a hitch on it and wire it up, or?
I would not pull that van trailer with that, absolutely not. It's got a sway bar control and everything on there too, and even in the pickup truck with that on there, and if you don't have the trailer weighted right, you know, you can feel the tail whip, and I would not recommend that at all at this point. Yeah.
You want to come back with some options for the next meeting?
Yeah.
Let's look up what something like A&H would have and
Right.
state bid, just some some different
I'll
various
get
things.
some, I'll give you more than one choice of what to move forward with, right?
On the
Yeah.
topic of the bus replacements, is there any possibility of pooling, water with other county schools? Or is it
I
possibility-
don't know of any, cost savings trying to, say, buy 10 buses and one school would get, you know, you say 9 of them and we'd get one, whether, I don't know that the margins would
Okay.
justify the means there.
Last time we ordered a new bus, and right after we ordered the new bus, it wasn't very long, and Effingham got rid of, I think, 5 buses, and every one of them had 4 less mileage on it than what ours did, and a couple of them went to Hudsonville, Illinois for somewhere in $33,000 to $35,000, about a third of what we paid for a new bus. Boy, that burned me big time. I think we should, of course, we're not talking about a bus right now anyway, but I think we should do some serious looking around before we, you know, that was a bad deal. I mean, I don't know why, you know, I don't know why we weren't informed about that. I still don't understand that, you know, especially when we were meeting together with those school districts, and nobody said a word about, well, we're gonna have 5 up for, and every one of them, they had them listed in the paper, had the mileage and everything. Every one of them was 4 less miles than what we got on ours.
Good point.
Just point of clarification, I'm confused between the two gentlemen. So you're asking for us to consider an annual purchase of a bus?
Or yes, I would like that very much.
That's what I thought I heard you say, and then he said we're not discussing the purchase of a bus, so are we?
Well, I thought we was.
Well, we're not this fiscal year. It won't be, it won't be for this fall.
Okay,
No,
thank
no.
you, I was just
Yeah,
lost.
no, it'll be for, 2022, actually.
Gotcha, thank you.
Yeah,
Very good.
right.
Other questions for Mr. Holland?
Mark, thank you for all the hard work you do. Yeah,
Thank you.
you do a good job of keeping them going, I gotta say that.
Appreciate it, thank you. Thank you, Mark. All right, item D, ACHS commencement is also a discussion item, and, last meeting, we picked a date and began the discussion, and are there any updates? Mr. Mitchell?
I've reached out to Dale. I don't know, Dale, are you on the board? Is that, okay. I would assume that if the restrictions get lifted further, that the county fair board needs to recoup some of the lost income that they've had over the past year. I don't see a problem with them letting us use it. We used it last year. We know it'll work. We know how to set it up. But if something should happen that the fairgrounds are not available for whatever reason, we could easily move our graduation ceremony to our soccer field and do it there. Again, with the restrictions being eased, the problem with the soccer field last year was the gathering and bunching of people coming in and out through those gates. At some point, they're going to mass up. We know how to do it. If the restrictions could be completely lifted, the beauty of that would be, in case of bad weather, we could move the graduation indoors. So for right now, it's still planned for 1 o'clock on the 15th at the fairgrounds, but I'm waiting to hear from the fair board to make sure that that's going to be available for us.
Very good, thank you, sir.
And he did hit it right on the head. If the restrictions are in place, we won't be able to use the Chiefs Fest on Saturday night.
Right.
But if we still can only have 50 people, we can't use it, so we may have problems. So it's gonna work either way.
Right.
I'm here or there based on restrictions.
Yeah, so we have backup plans for backup plans. So,
Very good, keep us up to date. Item C, a discussion item on the 2021-2022 school calendar, Mr. Oakley.
Right. I'm just wanting to check with the board and find out, is there a process from the board in place as far as developing a calendar? We don't have anything done at this point in time. Has it just come to you and you've approved it? Is that the way that it's been? Yes. Yes, okay. All right. We'll work on something with our administrative group, to go to the union, to talk about calendar, to get some feedback, come back and then bring the administrative group back together for some touch up on that. So, and we'll begin that process pretty quickly.
Very good, and we're right back to you on item D, food service update.
You have in your packet a couple of letters. that we have received that I thought were interesting. And once again, I'm not familiar with OPA. I've never worked with them at all. In fact, I didn't know what OPA stood for a long time. Got some pictures that were handed to me that I'd like to begin to pass around. Dale, if you would start in that direction. That's some things I actually have on my calendar. Had on my calendar to talk with the food service director today, but I just got tied up with other things and couldn't get there. Because I was over on Wednesday at the end of the day when everybody was gone and went through some questions through the kitchen. I've got some questions. Why some things weren't taken care of and that type of thing. So I'll be visiting with Mindy next week in regards to that.
Any things that you folks have for Jim on that topic, or?
I'm wondering if we're getting a clear reflection of what OPA usually is, given that it's the COVID year. And we're one of the few schools, or our area has more face-to-face than some. I'm just wondering, it's gonna be real tough to see this year what we've got compared to what we wanted.
I agree, Shelley. Trying to compare anything is hard. The piece that concerned me the other day was the cleanliness of some things over there. That was a big issue for me.
Okay.
And you'll see some pictures here of concern. And, you know, the floor's filthy. It needs to be, and I realize it's snowing a bunch. I get that, people track in and so forth, but I wasn't happy with what I saw. There were some things over there from cleanliness standpoint that need to be taken care of, boxes on the floor, that type of thing. The serving lines need to be wiped down and cleaned a little better. Just things like that need to be done on a daily basis.
All right. Next up, number 11, facilities discussion, and we'll start off with Mr. Witt. If you'd like to come in, to discuss a review of our priority list, and that will probably always bring the next topic up as well, and that's a discussion about an offer on the bleachers over there in the school.
Yep.
So we'll just handle it all as one topic.
That'll be fun. I guess the main thing off of our priority list is junior high roof got moved up because we did have some maintenance grant money to use against that, and that is being bid out. I think bids are March 2nd, if I remember right. It would be my recommendation that 1, 2, and 4, which is the HVAC system, the remodel of the high school kitchen, and the Honeywell control systems for this building that are failing tremendously, be replaced. That would be our top priorities, all at kind of one swoop if we could, possibly. The gym floor, when they came in and redid the gym floor this year, I had them test the density of the wood and to look at a couple issues that we thought was real concerning. And I think I kind of mentioned it at the last meeting. There is life left in the floor. The nail holes that we found were a temporary fix, permanent temporary fix. So I'm not as freaked out about needing to replace the gym floor as I thought would come sooner than later.
Alan, one more sanding on that?
One more.
Okay. How long before it needs to be sanded down?
They recommend every 10 to 15 years. We're at next year will be year 10. So
you could be looking at 15 years or so.
Yeah.
Before it needs to be replaced.
Completely replaced. So I thought that I was happy when he showed that results to me. So
We've got an idea for the third round of Clean Hearts. That's great news though, because we thought that was coming a whole lot sooner.
Oh yeah.
That's great news.
Yeah.
You stated 1 and 4 are your main.
1, 2, and 4, which is the HVAC system over at the junior high. Just to give you guys a little bit of what's going on over there, I've had to replace two main boards in 2 different units just this year. We found a valve that is leaking, and I got a pump that we're replacing. So, as them items, near what that's gonna cost? No, but it's starting to add up a little bit more and a little bit more. And then, and like I've always said, them units are 30-some years old. We've got our money's worth. I'm kind of tired of waiting until something goes out before we replace it. I want to be a little more proactive. The remodel of the high school kitchen, I think we all are in agreement that that needs to happen. And then the controls here in this high school and at the junior high side, I had 2 more units lose control this winter, so they're being ran temporarily by a thermostat. We paid really good money to be able to help with the energy control on those and shutting those things off in the evening times and stuff, and I have very little control over that with so far now 6 units. So the controls are a closed protocol system with Honeywell. I'm wanting to go in an open protocol system, so that way if the company that I'm dealing with leaves town, goes broke, whatever, starts charging way too much money, there's other companies that I can go to and I don't have to come and ask again for a complete replacement. This is something that we can find competitive bids for, kind of. So at least I'm not in the door completely gone. The high school office floor, if anybody's been in there, is completely horrible. The reason that is so much more money than like doing this office in here is because it's got asbestos tile underneath it. Carpet was glued. The padding was glued down to the carpet. After I found that out in the last couple weeks, I'm talking to a flooring guy about how a floor will react to a padding underneath it, what we can do, so at least we could get rid of some of the trip hazards and the overall ugliness of that carpet in there. But still, it needs to be remediated. And even though I can do asbestos removal, I cannot do that one because of the padding being glued to the top. So that takes it out of my control. So we got to hire somebody to come in and do it. So.
What's your timetable on that one, you think?
As soon as possible, to be honest. And there's other things. I mean, you look at in that office in there, that safe in there, the door is shot. I'm going to try to temporary another solution just so she can actually open it and close it right. Nikki, I'm talking about. But I called the safe people about getting a replacement part for it, and they laughed at me and said that thing, we haven't had parts for that thing in forever. So, we've got that issue that's got asbestos tile in the middle of it, and so I mean, if we could do a Queen of Hearts for maintenance buildings, love to gut that whole area and start over, but that's a wish. That's not a want. The flooring is getting to be bad. But 1, 2, and 4 would be my top priorities, and then that carpet in there.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Witt on that part of the list?
How much approximately are the Honeywell controllers nowadays?
This price that I have in here is for $35,000. That's to replace the high school and the junior high at the same time. I've had them re-quote it again, and it's down, doing some different things, it was down to $25,000. Could be 30 by the time pricing goes up and everything else by the time we do something. So I've always left it at 35.
Alan, the HVAC system at the grade school, that's 30 years old.
Yeah. 96.
Very good. Other questions? And I guess we have some good news on the bleachers over there.
Yeah, so,
I'll introduce one thing. One of the things that we did last year was made a decision that the grade school will begin to transition from a red and white color scheme to ones in black to match the high school and have consistency across the district. But only as uniforms and stuff come up for regular renewal, we'll just change colors. One of the issues though is our gym has red seats.
so what happened was we got ready to finally do sports, and they brought to my attention that there was a cracked seat cover. So we found 2 cracked seat covers, so I called over to Bleacher Company and asked them for a price on just being able to replace the seat covers. And basically what happens is that's a whole process where they have to send in the specs, have it blow molded again, and it was a $4,000 setup fee whether I ordered 2, 4, 6, whatever. There's a $4,000 setup fee. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to spend $4,000 to get 2 seat covers. So I was talking to her, and she goes, I have a proposal that I'm working on, so just give me some time. So when she called me back, she said she has it approved. The Bleacher Company tries to do outreach in the cities here and up in Michigan where they're at. And she said, so they got it approved. They're going to replace all the seat covers, everything, free of charge. Labor, everything. The only thing we have to do is get with her on color and then get with her on time frame. So
That is amazing. Thank you, Bleacher Company.
yeah, she was so, I've never talked to a lady that was so happy to give me something for free in my life. But she was absolutely ecstatic.
Who is she?
And I cannot remember her name. It's been
Was it Laura?
Stacy. Stacy. Yeah, I sent you.
I'd have to look back
You
to
just have to
my
remember to
The
really
gas?
thank Stacy.
Yes.
Or whoever.
Gast. Stacy Gast. That's her name.
Stacy Gas.
No. Ghast. I think so. Her last name is spelled.
That is amazing news. Absolutely amazing.
So I guess just to briefly expand on that, if we're going to do the bleachers, we're getting a new roof in there. I'm going to try to find and see what it's going to cost us, but maybe it'd be a good time to paint the walls. And just, I don't think we're going for any spectacular, blazing something orange on the walls, but it wouldn't be bad to get the walls, go ahead and get the walls painted and stuff. So I've been trying to find somebody willing to give me a price on it, because as good as
The whole thing, or just the seats?
the whole thing. It's actually like there's going to be like some. He was reading the email on the seat covers, but there's like brackets that's going to the new style of seat covers. So like, besides the bottom, we're getting whole new bleachers. So, but I could be more than happy to try to paint it, but I don't know that I have enough time, and I don't know that I want to ruin a floor and everything else because of the way I paint. So I would like to find somebody willing to get up there and spray it, or do whatever, however they do it. Somebody more professional than me. So.
That's just painting the floor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Anything else, Alan? Other questions for Alan? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm gonna stick around for just a little bit longer, then I'm gonna get out of here.
All right, Dale, I'm gonna bring you up next on number 12A, bonding to complete items on the facilities priority list. What are your thoughts here, sir?
Well, what I've done here is made up a little sheet for everyone to just look at, kind of a summary of where we're at on our bond. I'll just wait for a second. Like I said, told at the last meeting, they got sold, and we're good to go, paperwork's back, the refinancing is done. once everybody gets it, I can go through it a little bit. It's kind of a quick shot of where we're at on bonds and what happens when we sell bonds to our long-term debt obligation. You can see we had the series 2011 and 2015 refinance for the 2021 series bonds. Those two come together with our expenses of the refinancing. And then we got the 215, the 2015 Health Life Safety that was done. It's going to pay off on December of 2022. So that one is next being finished. If you look down where we're at currently right now, we're 66% borrowed of our capacity. And I give a comparison down below of what happens with time and borrowing. If you start in 2010, which we didn't have many bonds at that point, we were 21%, so we basically didn't have much liability. Then in 11, the first remodeling of the high school jumped up to almost 73%. And then time is your friend, and it starts going back down until in 2015 they sold bonds again. And you can see what happened when they sold the bonds again. The almost $5 million worth of bonds. Jumped up to 92%, so just about maxed out at that point. And again, as time goes along, starts going down. So when you start thinking about, just keep this in mind and keep it with you. And as you want to start spending money, buying, issuing bonds, you can see what that does to your repayment capacity. So, does anybody have any questions on it? I tried to make it as simple as possible. So just give an overview of where we're at. So when we start talking about doing kitchen or any of the items that Alan just talked about, you can see what happens. So we're, like I said, time is our friend. Every time we make a payment, it gets better and better, as long as you don't spend more money.
Thank you very much for putting this together. That's been a big issue to this board. Almost 4 years ago now, when we were all beginning to talk about this, we were sitting there at 80% of our borrowing capacity was used up. And so a major goal that we identified in our strategic plan was to get our district back down on the level of bonding that we had out there. And so it's great to see that, as you said, time is our friend. We've been paying them off. We did the refinancing to lower our interest rates, and we're down to 66%. So that is a huge improvement. Not maybe as far as we want to go yet, but this is going to give us a lot of help as we think about projects and get bonds in the future.
You can see what $1 million does to you.
Exactly. So.
The bonds on this wing were blended into the 2011 bond, you know?
So I wasn't involved in that, so I don't know how that number came.
Good. Any questions for Dale on that? All right. Last part of 12 was 12B, alternative energy. And Jim, you started that, and I'll finish that.
I did, and I'd gotten a letter, I don't know, like 12 days ago, 12 working days ago, and I happened to be over at Paris, and I saw the solar farm going in over there. I know that Charleston's got a wind farm going in. I don't know if it means anything. I know some school districts have looked at it. Gary, you know a lot more about alternative energy than I do, so I just wanted to have this kind of discussion to talk about that.
Well, thank you for opening that up. Yeah, that's the business that I've been in, which is changing at a week. So things to know about here in Altamont. Is solar energy possible? Absolutely. We are limited, which I'll talk about in a second. To give you an idea of size and scale, a 10 kilowatt array will cost somewhere around $30,000 to $35,000. And so we could do a 10 kilowatt array here at the school and over at the other school and offset some of the load. I haven't spent any time to run the profile to see how many kilowatts we actually need. It's probably well over 100 kilowatts if we wanted to offset the load. But the reason that I really haven't delved into it is because we have a secondary issue here in town, which is the city of Altamont has two limitations. One limitation is that there's only going to be a certain quantity of solar that the city will allow on the city utility. And so that represents roughly, it's a percentage of the peak annual sales in July. So it's roughly 100 to 120 kilowatts. We currently have about 70 kilowatts already installed in town. So there's room for about another 3 or 4 jobs. So if we need a 100 kilowatt system, for example, we can. The secondary limit is because they're limiting it to 100 to 120 total for the town, they didn't want one, like the school, to build it all. So no one can install anything bigger than 10 kilowatts. So if the school seriously wants to look at this, the first stop is at City Hall to start negotiating with them. Is there, politically, will you let us do it? And then secondarily, from an engineering standpoint, can the lines themselves handle the backfeed off of the array we put up? So it is possible. I would love to see a way that we would be able to lock in our utility costs. That's one of the biggest advantages of doing solar is that for whatever you pay for the system, you know how much power you can generate, and it should last for 30 to 40 years. So you effectively hedge the utility costs for a long time. That would be wonderful. The city of Altamont might not think so because they're going to have reduced sales because of us doing that. But bottom line, great idea. We've got hurdles to cross with the city utility if we ever want to see that.
Is there a gain to the city though? I don't totally understand that. Can that be sold back to the city?
Yeah.
If we had excess, would that be a gain to the city? Would it be a cheaper?
That's a deeper discussion.
Would you even have the capacity room-wise to put panels up? That's another.
Yeah, to me, there's only 3 locations possible. One would be sections of the roof of this building, sections of the roof over at the grade school, and actually the standing rib roof on the new part of the building, facing east and west, would be a beautiful site for it. The third site would be a ground mount if we didn't need some of the area that used to be the track out in the back there. But we would have to be thinking through 30 years of land use. If we put solar panels out there, would we ever need that same spot for the replacement of some section of this building in 30 years? So, great questions, guys. All right, other questions? All right. Next is Mr. Kachuk, 13 Teaching and Learning Summer School Update.
We are looking at probably 4, maybe 5 classes, 1 generic English class, 2 math classes, 1 algebra, 1 generic, and then 2 classes in social studies. Contract, we're going to go in 5 weeks, 2-hour classes, twice a week. So each class would be twice a week for 2 hours, and we'd have to pay teachers for planning time. I'm looking at what Effingham basically decided to do with theirs. Our contract says $23.59 an hour, which would be a total cost for 5 teachers for 5 weeks for the 6 hours a day of $3,536, which COVID money, CARES money will pay for. If we charge students $50 for the class, because it's been the experience that if the students don't pay something, then they won't come or won't participate. We only need 14 students to cover our costs. We also want to use our distance learning equipment to offer this to other schools that have that equipment, and their students would then help defray the cost even further. So, in essence, it's a cost-free program this summer for the district, because we do have CARES money that will cover the cost, and it's allowed to be used for that. We prefer to think of it more as a credit recovery than a summer school. So students that completed the entire course and completed all the work associated with it would get a semester credit that they could then apply to whatever school it was they came from. We're locking down all the details. The distance learning people are all on board. We just need to lock down our local descriptions of the course and put those out and get the ball rolling. So we're going to, slow down. We're going to meet with those people next week to lock that down so they can have it for the board for the marketing.
How many students are you thinking about there? Okay, thanks.
We had, again, like I said, we had an unfortunately higher number of student failures in the first semester than we're comfortable with. So we haven't even, once we get everything locked down, we'll be reaching out to students to try to encourage them to get that semester credit back, and we'll see how many students respond to that. I might even have a generic number for you I will have a generic number for you by the March 14th. Okay?
So this is more for credit recovery here?
Yes.
What they be able to do it from home, or will they have to come to
Gone from school.
school?
Yeah, our kids will. The students that are under distance learning will have to go to their school to be in the room with the equipment. The other question I've got to figure out, and again, just looking through it, if the student's here for 4 hours, I think we have to give them lunch, but we're gonna lock all that down. That's all those little pieces that are out there that I want to make sure we have nailed down before we go too far ahead of ourselves. So,
Transport too?
not sure about that yet. Because it's high school students, so I'm not sure we will. So we'll have to see how many freshmen are involved and what their needs will be.
What time do they need to be at school and
We
take them home and that sort of thing?
probably
Like
the first,
8 o'clock?
well, that's the thing, if classes would run from like 8 to 10 and then 10:30 to 12:30. So if they're not here, we have buses, you know,
Not gonna be
so.
an AM class or PM or,
No.
you know, one time.
Yep, no, they'll do one.
Thank you very much for spearheading that, and we look forward to the report back for action in the next meeting. All right. Item 14 is our first action item, and that is non-tenured staff. And that would be Mr. Hill and Mr. Kachuk. Non-tenured staff.
Yes, I have the bulk of them, and you have the list here. The list is correct, and myself and Mr. Biggs both recommend that all those teachers be moved up a step and retained to come back again next year. They're doing a very good job. And we have no one going to tenure this year.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to.
I'll make the motion.
A second. Ms. Coons? Mr. Secretary, I'll let you read how you write that. And any discussion?
And those are just the grade school teachers. I don't know if you have to do grade school and high school separate.
Do you have any at high school?
We have 3 teachers, our new Spanish teacher who needs to come back. We need to come back. We have Logan, who needs to come back. And then what it needs to be separated, I'm not sure. Katie Bauer came to us 2 years ago when Meredith Dust left to go to Topless. She's outstanding. She has a lot of experience. She's had outstanding evaluations. As we did with Sherry Schaefer, I think it was last year or 2 years ago, you can, because all of her evaluations have been outstanding, you can offer her tenure after 2 years under the new system. So I would recommend, if it needs to be separate, that's fine, but I would recommend that the board grant her tenure on the fast track.
Yeah, we'll have to put that on as a different motion.
Typically, you vote on all the first year, the second year, you vote on all the second year, the third year, you vote on all the third year, the fourth year. So that's how it's typically
Yeah,
done.
we need to do it 1, 2 to 2, 2 to 3, just like this.
Yeah.
And we need to pull out,
Katie Bauer.
so we need to list them, I can do that in breaks, no big deal, but we'll do it as a blanket, but then I'll list it as, and then we'll put this as fast. So approval of non-tenured supervisors. Okay. I've got a motion.
So we've got a motion and a second to approve non-tenured certified staff. And we will go through then writing down that we were advancing at the grade school from 1 to 2 years, 2 to 3 years, 3 to 4 years. And at ACHS, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 4 years. And then the fast track for between the balance.
I don't think we need to separate the buildings. I think we need to do first year and second year.
Yeah, we'll just do 1 and 2s, and then we'll do the fast track. I'll lump them all together as the same motion, I just have to split them apart. Okay, I'm going to roll call on you.
Call the question.
Okay. Wolf.
Yes.
Rebel.
Yes.
Coons.
Yes.
Coleman.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
Buckham.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, motion carried 7-0. Item 15, employment of district extracurricular coaches and sponsors for fall and winter and winter, and that is an action item. for Mr. Biggs,
That's
and,
a point of order.
Yeah,
so what it is?
Are we gonna do the vote on the fast track?
that's a separate item.
Yeah, I need to put it in here.
Okay, thank you for catching that. I'm running off the road in my first meeting, thank you all.
Part of his hair. They will be so proud of you.
Alright, so to get us back on track, I would entertain a motion then to do a fast track recommendation for Katrina Dodd.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is there any advantage to doing this fast track? What's the advantage?
It's just that she doesn't have to wait 2 more years to have her guaranteed.
I'm racking my brain. I was thinking the last time we did this, we had some teachers complain that they didn't think that was being they had to go for their full 4 years. I don't think I'm in favor of it. It's fully legal.
It was my understanding the last time we did this, that because she had had years of service in a previous district, that allowed her to get fast track.
Okay, that could have been what it was.
And not because she's only taught 2 to 3 years total, it's because she's taught a total of X years or district.
You can only fast track somebody with tenure after 2 years and with a new system if they're from a previous district and all of their evaluations have either been proficient or outstanding, which they have. So,
I mean, I want to see us move her on, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that, but I don't know, I have a little problem with the fast track deal.
Is her cumulative, I can't get that word out. Is her cumulative years of service, both other school and here, you are tenure? I mean, how many years,
I'm not familiar with it.
the person we're fast tracking has a total of how many years of teaching experience?
I'd say 13 or 15.
yeah, it's more than 10.
Thank you, that's what I was trying to bring up.
So probably
We're
more
not
than
fast
that.
tracking a third year teacher.
No,
Okay.
no.
Maybe that's
Yeah,
15.
does that help? I
Yeah,
need to know
that
too.
helps, yeah.
All right, thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Yeah. That makes you feel better.
David, you getting those down there?
Well, not necessarily. The 24-11 sets forth the fast track procedure is an automatic function of law. So either if she's received 2 summative evaluations, she was tenured in her previous district and proficient or excellent at that district, she's going to be tenured 45 days before the end of this school year as a function of the law, not necessarily as a function of her action.
Okay.
So that was an optional, so, sorry.
No, you're good.
So in other words, this is a new point then?
It may be, and I don't know without looking at, there may be something in the contract or something else that I'm not aware of, that's why I'm quiet, but if she's received 2 excellence and she complied with the statute regarding notification of due to tenure, before she got here, then it's automatic. She'll be, if you don't take action, dismissed before the end of this year, she'll be tenured.
Okay. So that given the case, do you want to table that one until next meeting to verify that status?
I move we just go ahead and vote to fast track her, and that way we don't have any, we're not gonna be in any trouble for voting on it. We're here, got it,
Okay.
do it, get it done with.
There's a motion by Mr. Schumacher.
So you said you could motion off?
No, Mr. Schumacher just, I put out a suggestion, but Mr. Schumacher just made a motion that we go ahead and do the fast track, knowing that it's,
But we already have a motion as far as for
do we have a motion for that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so as long as you already have the motion.
We'll let Darren second it now.
Yes, Darren, please second that, then I know who helped that. Sorry about that, I was copy and pasting and type it.
Good question.
Yes, any other discussion on that?
How long?
Not, we'll call roll. Wolf, yes?
Mello? Yes.
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Wow. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Schumacher?
Yes.
7-0.
All right, pass 7-0. And number 16, sports official pay, an action item, and it's gonna check it off already. Sorry about that. Back to the extracurricular coaches.
All right, you should have had a little spreadsheet of the junior high coaching assignments from this year.
And recommendations for next year have not changed. The only one that has mentioned that he would like to maybe resign would be Mr. Hayden from boys track. Of course, that's not till March, so we still have some time to find a replacement for that. The only one that said something but never has really confirmed would be Scott Klingler for 8th grade volleyball. And again, that doesn't start till December, so I still have time to pin him down if he wants to continue with junior high or if he's ready to give it up. So basically everybody for fall has said they want to stay. Girls basketball, boys basketball said they want to stay. So I'm recommending basically we stay the same with replacing possibly Mr. Klingler and Mr. Hayden down the road.
Does it have to be separate vote or can you all the same?
Yeah, I've got all extracurricular coaches for fall.
Unless someone wanted to single one out, I wouldn't see why.
Yeah, we don't need to single anybody out.
So I have, for the high school level, I don't see any changes. Everybody's interested in still doing it for the next year, and I've been evaluated if they've coached already. I just highlighted in what I gave you for people who have not coached yet this year because their COVID season hasn't happened, and so therefore I haven't evaluated them yet for this year. So I don't see any problems or any reason why any of them are not planning on wanting to continue.
Any questions for either of them? Seeing not, we have a motion on the table to accept the recommendations for those coaches and sponsors for the fall winter sports. Is this good? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Lau? Are you ready for the question or any discussion? Let's call the vote.
Wolf.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
Coleman, yes. Lau.
Yes.
Belkamp.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-2.
All right, now we're back to number 16, Mr. Diggs.
All right, I had a few officials, mainly in volleyball, reach out to me saying we were getting on the low end, and I always appreciate them telling me kind of where we're at, because I don't want to fall behind on what we pay officials, because it's hard enough to get good officials anyway without being on the low end of the pay scale. So I sent this out to area schools and got feedback from most of them. A few of them did not respond, but you can see basically the chart there, and I averaged at the bottom there. Those are the averages, and I just put recommendations down below that. I just kind of basically went a little above the average because I don't want to change every year, so I'd like to stay towards the top end. And I don't think any of those are really the top end of what's paying. Like for softball, 55, some people are paying 60. Baseball, 60, some people are paying 65. Same thing with basketball, they're paying 70, and I'm just saying 65 there. Volleyball, 60. That I think might be, well, no, there's a 70 there for volleyball. A lot of people are paying 60. And track's a little bit different if you look at that one. It says the average is 64, but that I think was skewed because of T-Top was putting 50 in there and then 10 additional. I didn't do the 10 additional for each school, which all of our meets are usually fairly good-sized meets. Not very often do we have 3 schools or 4 schools. They're usually 5, 6, 7 schools for a junior high meet, which is really big. So we're at 65. I'm saying go up to 70 for that, and I think most officials would be okay with that. So I'm just looking for approval to increase those amounts to what I have listed there, or discussion on any of them that we don't agree with. And I think Peggy did the same thing, I think.
Yep, same thing with an average, just like Chris had did. Kind of let me know what he did. I did the same. We either went with the average or a little bit above for them. The fresh soft is the one that had the biggest jump. The difference for us, and it's going through a spell where we have several boys in our freshman and sophomore level, so we're playing 2 full games that are 8-minute quarter games. I know some, and when I talk to some schools, some of their fresh off games are only 7 minutes or even less, or maybe just 1 game. So it wasn't a complete apples to apples to comparing what they pay, because for some of them they're paying for one game, and some it's 2 games. So that's what I just felt like was fair for officials, and again, that's my recommendation, but absolutely willing to discuss and see what you guys feel, what you think is fair.
I've got a question, just so I understand. Do you both schedule officials, or do you have an assigner to the conference or something?
No,
We have scheduled our own.
You schedule it, okay,
except for soccer.
except for soccer,
Soccer uses arbiter sports,
okay.
and then we pay what they tell us to pay.
I have a question. So, as a board member, I wanna know what this increases our total expenditures. Like, I don't know how many of each one of these we do, right? So, when we just say, oh, I wanna go up from $50 to $55, well, how many games is that? So, again, what you choose to say the going rate is, I trust you, but as a board member, I'd like to see a final, if we went with these numbers, given the average number of games, that increases our line item by how much? And it may be nominal, I don't know, because I don't know how many games we have.
Okay. So you want us to put, like, you need to go through before the next time and say, okay, average, like for basketball, call it 15 home games.
Right.
This is what would,
And I bet Susan probably has a lot of that already. She
yeah.
can say how many times.
This is what we paid
Yeah,
out.
so it probably wouldn't be that hard for her to just see the number we had and change it by $5. But
Yeah.
I think we need an expected annual increase that this would cost before I felt comfortable approving.
And question for clarification, are you wanting these changes to be effective for the next school year, or you need them effective in the middle of the season?
No, not till next week.
So we are okay to table this.
That's some time to get numbers.
I can tell you off the top of my head,
I'd rather you just put it.
because I know basically how many games I have at home this year.
Yeah, you put it in this format, we'll just visit it in our board packet for March, and then we won't have to discuss it again. We'll be good, we'll just have a vote on it.
Peggy, am I missing your recommendation? No, it's in there. Yeah, if you want to turn sideways, right below the next page number.
Yours,
21.
no, he probably had, because I
Oh, yeah,
answered that, I
you got
have it, it's tiny. My recommendation is on, how about I reshare, or do you want it on?
It's fine, we can talk about it next board meeting. Yeah, I just didn't see it.
Well, when I send it out, I'll send this again.
Okay.
The recommendation and then what, the additional information.
It's not the one you did that set them down?
It is, but I don't think on that one I added I had my average line, but when I got sent to you, the recommendation line wasn't on there yet.
Recommendation line.
Yeah, average one's on this.
But not the recommendation.
No, we're not
There
going
should
to.
be- See how this is? This line's there, not this one. We got it.
I mean, I've got this printed copy for you, but
If you could just throw that in next time, mine, which is a total, then that's all I look at.
Right, so from that discussion, then they'll give us the recommendation line, and then tally up
yeah.
what possibly the district would absorb from those increases, so we know what the total dollar figure will be. We have a motion to table it till the next meeting.
Can I just say one thing, just for clarification, for the track, and I've asterisked that just because, like you said, it's kind of a different beast, because sometimes the size of the meet is huge, and to be honest, at the high school level, the meets are probably smaller than at the junior high as far as participants, which means how much time and how many starts. You know, for a lot of things we do, the high school officials get paid more. This is an incident that I think maybe not so, because the size of the meet for the junior high is larger than what our high school meets are. And having 3 teams at a meet and having 8 teams at a meet or 12 teams, that's a huge difference. So it's hard to say every time we're gonna pay a track official this amount.
Right.
So I don't know if there can be leeway if we adjust that according to,
So just give us the narrative on the best estimate.
okay,
I have a comment too. Mr. Biggs, I don't mean to discredit your work here or anything, and I know these officials are, you gotta have them for the games, I understand that. But I only seen 2 that if they were raised $5 each, like baseball and volleyball, we would be real close to the averages all the way across. I don't, you know, we're looking to try to save a little money overall. We're looking at that, our facilities upgrade. I think this is a chance. I would cut it back. I'd just keep it as close to the averages as I can. And So I'm curious, what are your rough numbers, total cost?
I was just looking real quick.
And I'm sure it's not a lot of money either, but it's ever, you know,
I didn't
take
have-
care of the
I didn't
pennies
have
and
that.
the dollars, take care of themselves.
2, 4.
And as he's told that up, and when Chris and I talked in reference to that, is that when I reached out to some of the high school, to the ADs, a lot of them were saying they're getting ready to revisit it. So
650
they're
bucks.
thinking they're going to be changing, so the average next year may.
For junior high.
So this one, he said, we don't have to keep changing it every year, to say for the average. Does that make sense? That there, other schools are planning on increasing their pay. This is what they're currently paying. Some of them just increased their pay too, so, I mean, it's hard to give that average number is gonna be higher next year at this time, with the number of people who told me they're gonna increase pay, so.
If we don't increase these rates, your availability is gonna be hindered. And it's
Especially when,
not
especially when
today.
officials say something to me. I mean, I'll ask them once in a while and they'll tell me, but when they come up to me and tell me like,
You're a little cheap.
I'm getting $60 for all my volleyball games, or most of them, I'm like, okay, it's good to know.
And I'll be honest, it depends on the official. The older officials don't say much, and they'll say, you know, we do it for the kids. The younger officials are more on keeping track of what school pays, what amount. I don't know if that's a generational thing, but that's what I see.
Very good.
And, I mean, some of our officials come from, you know, from close, and some come from
That's another thing.
further away.
It'll help knowing what we're talking about dollar-wise too, so.
Very good. So you guys come back to us with that information. Would somebody be willing to make a motion to table this for the next meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Ms. Chris? Any further discussion? If not, we'll call the roll. Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
King. Coleman. Yes. Blau.
Yes.
Buckner.
Yes.
Seaman.
Yes.
All right, that is tabled. All right, folks, we've reached the point that we were planning to take a break. We're there early, which is great. The next thing that will occur is public comment at 5:30. We're gonna hold up for that because people are expecting to see at 5:30. If no one else comes in, we could hold it right here. I'm expecting there'll be some more people, in which case we'll be down at the gymnasium. So, kind of play it by ear. We've got 45 minutes to get back and relax. I would entertain a motion to go into recess. Okay, and this is Chris on the second.
Another closed session. We have another closed session later. Hey, Karen,
Yeah,
the other closed session that we have later, is that anything we can
oh, good point.
with the
Yeah, if there's anything we can do for a little while, let's keep working.
Yeah,
Well, I think
we got
we're-
45
yeah, we
minutes.
could probably do
I mean, so no, okay.
There's really not much to talk about there.
That was their workshop, just in case we needed to avoid going.
So I'm always asking, were there items from that? The answer is no.
Are we gonna go in close?
We need a motion to go to recess. According to Robert's rules, let's do it because it's Robert's rules and orders has an action item to go to recess. So we've got a motion with a second. And, you call the roll. Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. One of my friends over at Central Office retired as a assistant accountant specialist. So I started there on March 1st. But what can I do this weekend? If one of these time periods cycles downward when the incentives expire like they are right now, it's more difficult to sell. If that happened at the same time and the Venus Crown expires and she couldn't work for an extended period of time to deserve it, we'd be in a little bit of so it's actually a difficult move. I don't want to leave guys at this shop, but I want more stability industry-wise to go with it.
So you don't, no pun intended, you're gonna be.
I'll start off with thank you everybody for being here. We will come back into session for the public comment section. And I believe Mr. Cornett wanted to give a little tech tip here for a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Everybody, if you would please do your very best to keep your murmuring to a minimum, because we are in an acoustic challenge location. And if everyone wants to be heard, they need to speak slowly and calmly. Otherwise, it'll sound like a bunch of gibberish. So do your best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cornett. So again, I want to welcome everyone here. To get a little housekeeping out of the way, today's meeting will be streamed on the Altamont Community Live Stream channel on YouTube. For those of you who are at home, the chat function will be enabled if you want to put forward a comment or a question during this session. Also, an email account has been created for the public to ask questions. This email address is publiccomment@altamontschools.org. And I've been instructed due to the echoing reverberations to talk very slowly. If you're having trouble, wait a minute and I'll slow down further. Public comment is your section where you get to address the board. We have a sign-up sheet of people who've asked to speak. I will go down that list from top to bottom. Each person has 5 minutes. That's the standard board policy to address the board. If you don't need to use it all, you don't have to. We'll move on down the road a little more quickly. At the 4-minute mark, we have 1 minute left. Mr. Coleman will be keeping time. He'll give a signal so you know that you're into the last minute of the presentation. If you make your public comment and you're willing, there are people down in the cafeteria. If you want to rotate out so they can come up, that would be great as well. And if you're coming up to the microphone and the person somewhere in front of you has already said everything that you wanted to say, it would be appropriate also if you care to just to say, hey, I agree with Joe. But you don't have to. It's just an option to make the time move more quickly. So with that, keep in mind, the echoes are terrible, so speak slowly, and we'd ask everyone to maintain good public decorum. And I would ask Carla Bowen, would you like to speak first?
The Altamont Education Association, and we have a letter that we have been asked by our members to respond to an email that we received. We would like to say that we, the members of the teaching staff, would like to address some of the concerns brought forward in the email from Mrs. Coons. Perhaps Mrs. Coons received this information from individuals in the community. We, as educators and union members, have always maintained a decorum of professionalism and acceptance of all individuals within and outside of our district family. The Altamont teachers are accepting of all people, children or adults, irrespective of age, race, color, creed, religion, sex, gender, or sexual orientation. Teachers on a daily basis address intolerance and bias. We engage and respect that students, teachers, and parents may have different views or ideas without condemnation or disdain. It is our goal and stance to foster a positive, nurturing, and safe learning environment for all. To be transparent, the association or its members had no role in the superintendent search, interviews, or the decision of hiring a superintendent. We also had no hand or control in the community's response to the board's selection of the superintendent. We have demonstrated over the years as professionals that we work with all our administration, students, and parents. The AEA members are disappointed and extremely offended by the remarks accusing us of intolerance to differences that could cause depression or even suicide in our students. We have, as teachers, only have our students' emotional, physical, and educational well-being in mind every day. The association appreciates the support our administrators have given us in regard to the email from Mrs. Coons. Please remember that in Altamont, our students are our top priority and our only priority.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman. very much. Mr. Shane Fredkin.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you this evening. My name is Shane Fredkin. I'm a proud graduate of Altamont Community Unit School District number 10. I can say that with great pride because of school board members, administrators, teachers, and students, past and present, continuing their efforts for a brighter future. We, concerned citizens, come to you tonight with the desire to work together for the betterment of our school system and community. We are not here to address any concerns that have brought us here, but to show our desire and support for what should be the best school district around. It is no secret there has been concerns addressed by many individuals and media outlets. Unfortunately, this has resulted in many untruths and has spiraled into a set of circumstances that are difficult to resolve in a public forum. As the Board of Education moves forward in future business, we want you to know that the community cares and cares greatly on what lies ahead. We want to help be the solution, not the problem that some may perceive. This community is passionate and does expect value, character, image throughout the school system. Our students are held to a high standard through the student handbook. The teachers, administrators, superintendent, and board members are held to high standards through the Board of Education policy. As a community, we simply ask that you review and use to your capabilities Section 280, Board Member Oath and Conduct, as well as Section 810, Community Relations set forth in the Board of Education policy guidelines. Only together will we achieve the goodwill, respect, and confidence we need to have in one another. The community has elected the board and should have complete faith in the task at hand. We can agree to disagree on things. That is human nature. It is absolutely imperative how we move forward after such a difference in opinion that builds true character. We want to build trust that can be bestowed in a great relationship partnership for the best interest of the students. I'm reminded of the Illinois Association of School Boards Foundation principles in effective governance set forth. It states, number 1, the board clarifies the district purpose. Number 2, the board connects with the community. Number 3, the board employs a superintendent. Number 4, the board delegates authority. Number 5, the board monitors performance. And finally, number 6, the board takes responsibility for itself. Tonight we ask the board, what kind of relationship can we have moving forward? Some districts utilize committees and or subcommittees in the pre-stages of the application process, facility development, and overall school district awareness. Such committees are sometimes composed of teachers and community members to aid the board in knowledge that might not be seen through the administrative side. Would that be a possibility? I believe everyone should encourage such a task. The more knowledge everybody has, the stronger the district will continue to be. We do appreciate the countless hours of volunteerism you have set forth in your time as board members. Volunteering can be known as a thankless job sometimes, but the reward is much greater when all come together and people notice. We would like to reaffirm our support for the schools, communities, and the successful hiring of a new superintendent for Altamont Unit 10's number 10 school district. May God bless you all. Sincerely concerned citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick and your group. Mr. Ryan Eckhart.
Thank you. I don't have a prepared statement. I just more along the lines of question and answer sessions. I wonder if you could speak to what we are allowed to do as a board, what you are allowed to do when sourcing new candidates. We're going to go through this process again, and how that has changed, or if it's changed over the last decade. I know previously when we looked for candidates, we were allowed to go to those districts and talk to people in the community, school systems. So I just wondered if you could spend some time talking about that, as well as what level of liability or involvement we get from using an outside consultant type organization for this process.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Eckert. Appreciate your questions. One of the misnomers of public comment, though, is that it's a section for people to make their comments to us. I'm not in a position to answer your questions because I haven't conferred with the rest of the board, of course. So we'll pass it on to Mr. Miller. Brad Miller? No, I think you said you. No, I think. Do we have any other people that signed up outside that we haven't received the list for yet? All right, I'm going to ask our board attorney, Mr. David Braun is with us. He is from Miller Tracy Braun. They specialize in school law, representing school districts. To a couple of questions we have, he can, I think, add a little bit of enlightenment, and we'll go all the way to answer questions.
So, I'll offer my comments for employees, benefit of the community. I don't want to speak specifically to the church document. I don't want to speak to the church recent document.
I'll take the mic down, I'll stand up. Better that way. Is that better? A little bit better? Not a lot better?
Right this way? Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. I'll try to speak slowly as I stand. I hope you can hear me okay. Speak to the board and employees for the benefit of you. Don't want to speak first just at her, because I'm aware there are facts in civic search that it's important that I protect district from liability.
That one better?
Once it's on, it will be.
I see. We've changed speakers. Now does it sound better? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, folks. I'll attempt to speak only to the search process generally and my recommendations for search. First, it is imperative in the context of the search that your search follow a format guided by somebody with expertise. It is imperative that when you conduct a search that you do an appropriate background investigation. It is imperative when you do a search that you're looking for the benefit of counsel and experience. It's imperative when you do a search that you're looking for an appropriate fit for the superintendency or for any employment position for matters which are subject to the qualification for the job. It's important that your search is reasonably calculated specifically to address qualifications for the job, nothing broad. For that reason, the various search organizations that conduct search, as well as our own policy manual, as well as litany of case law, would suggest to you that the best thing you can do is you go forward, recognize you're in the midst of a new search, so as we conduct that search, my advice to you is that your search process needs to be narrow enough to assure that you are not conducting a slipshod investigation. By that I mean you don't want to cast so broad a net in your investigation of employees that you find evidence of things that might dissuade you from hiring qualified people on the basis of things which are not relevant to their qualifications. At the same time, it's important that you conduct a search that's thorough enough as to the qualifications that you, the Board of Education, are satisfied you hired the most qualified candidate for the position. Therefore, I would not recommend that you do broad net investigation as to anything and everything that might come up. As I told your board presidents over time, I'm thrilled that there was no Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or MySpace when I was a kid. I'm grateful for that because if somebody searched what I did when I was 10, I wouldn't necessarily want that out there. Because hopefully I've grown up. I would hope that nobody used against me my grades when I was 10 in terms of how I do my job today. Same thing's true when you conduct a background investigation. You need to be looking for evidence of qualification for employees for the school district. I'm not going to tell you that any particular rule is required or prohibited. I am going to tell you that if you conduct a broad net investigation designed not to speak to specific rules of conduct, but rather to identity or various personal issues of people that have nothing to do with their qualifications of employment, you'll potentially subject yourselves to liability, you, the board, not the individual. Therefore, my counsel to you would be as you continue to work with search firms and continue to look through candidates, continue to look for appropriate qualifications, continue to make sure that your investigations are limited to those narrow procedures as required, and be sure that you don't, that if you discover evidence of something that concerns you, that you're checking it against a policy and qualification to assure that you have rational basis for ascertaining whether that person is in fact qualified for the position. In other words, it's imperative as we begin this search that you don't seek to find information or utilize information that has nothing to do with qualifications. Happy to answer any questions from the board.
Thank you, Mr. Braun. All right, that brings us to the close of the public comment section. Next item on our agenda is for closed session. We have a motion to go to closed session. Mr. Shoemaker? Second. Mr. Lau? And Mr. Secretary? And we do not anticipate any action after closed session. So thank you very much for your attendance. We appreciate your comments.